been. This is not a Christmas. This is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas. This is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas. This is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas. This is not a Christmas song. My neighbors compete to see who can put up more blinding lights. The kids all wish away the month 'cause they want presents in sight. This year had me so mad. I've been bad, got cold that is sitting under my tree. I think that my Christmas has died. This is not a Christmas. This is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas. This is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas. This is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas. This is not a Christmas song. When I was just a boy, Christmas brought so much joy. Couldn't wait for the presents and laughter. I couldn't sleep late at night, looking for Santa with lights. Those are the memories I still remember. Then I became a man, lost sight of who I am. But right in front of me was the answer. 'Cause on Christmas I feel joy, and I turn back to a boy. The answer is to stay young forever. This is not a Christmas. This is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas. This is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas. This is not a Christmas song. This is not a Christmas. This is not a Christmas song.
Which one of you did that?
Hey. Good evening. Right. Now what's going on? Right. There we go. Sorry about that, people. Sorry about that, people. The cult of UFO is also broadcasting tonight, and unfortunately it didn't have a picture, but it does now. So there we go. I don't know if you could even hear what was going on earlier in the cult. It's live streaming. It's an art, not a science.
It's like voodoo.
Yeah,
It's like voodoo.
so put a new
There's
put a new video up in the cult today. The aerial school. Have you watched it yet? Because that's down your street. Well, it used to be down your
I will
street.
check it out this weekend. I've had the kind of day that makes you want to both strangle people, and you know that movie Falling Down with Michael Douglas, where he can't
Yes.
he can't get breakfast
Yes.
from a fast food establishment
Yep.
after 11 o'clock because it's just like, and he walks in and they've literally just turned the signs around. It's like, I want that. That's my current mood. I have to say, literally, I've just been bombarded by different piles of idiocy today, and I've had different things. It's
there's a
one
lot-
of those days where you go on.
There's a lot of it about idiocy. I don't know what the hell is going on in the States, right?
Today's been extra stupid.
They really are. And if you're an American, don't be offended. Do not be offended because you're special. You are special. But I don't understand these people that they are putting up what are obviously aircraft and saying it looks like an aircraft. It looks like a plane. It sounds like a plane, but it's definitely not a plane.
Yeah, you've been hounding the. Yeah, I mean, there's so much of it on every different subject matter, whether it's UFOs or, I mean, it's. I don't know. I don't know if there's dark actors that are injecting bot accounts that are acting deliberately stupid or whatever, or people engagement farming on Twitter. I mean,
Well,
I don't know if it's the
that's a
For You feed
possibility.
on X, because it's. I mean, my algorithm is just showing me these engagement farming thread wankers, and it's just like I can't. I mean, okay, I'm interested in all these fascinating pictures of historical buildings. This is one of the problems with the algorithms: is that you click into something randomly that you haven't liked before, and suddenly the algorithm is like, "Oh, he likes that. He likes something new. I better get on there. Oh, better show him this. Better show him that. How many different? Oh, yeah, you've got different archaeological sites. You've got, and then you've got all these engagement farming wankers who are basically milking the monetization on Twitter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's the rule of unintended effects. It's like the Rachel from Accounts, her budget, same thing, where they think, oh yeah, we've got all these big ideas, but you're talking about a chaotic system. You can't control a chaotic system. And when you think you can control a chaotic system, that's when you fall on your ass, because you have unintended consequences, because you make change. It's the analogy with chaos theory is the butterfly flapping its wings in Hong Kong causes a hurricane in New York.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Right. Let me get something in before you go completely down your rabbit hole. But at least the algorithm's given you maybe something you might like, rather than just. I mean, do you remember when I don't know how long you've been on Twitter, but I'm someone like me has been on Twitter since 2009, right? And Twitter used to be like a stream of consciousness for the world, because it didn't really filter anything. You got everything and it scrolled past it like hyper speed. It was absolutely mental, Everything just appeared and kept appearing. And this is a little bit better now, because it doesn't, as you're reading something, it doesn't scroll off the screen, which is what used to happen. It used to drive me nuts. And then you could never find it, because if you actually started scrolling back, it would be like 50 pages down. So is it a little bit better now?
Yeah, there is still that. I think it is better, but I think the algorithm is a bit like an over enthusiastic puppy, where you just, when you get home, okay, it's nice to have a puppy that's happy to see you, but when it's jumping all over you and trying to lick your face and just getting in the way, I don't know. Because the thing is that AI is basically permeating everything, especially online. So I wouldn't be surprised if they've got some AI working on our Twitter feeds. And I'm sure the same is true on Facebook, and Truth Social and Getter are just, I mean, I post my Daily Seagull on there, but they're just kind of nothing platforms.
I don't bother with them. I really don't. I tried, what was the one that Trump started? Was that Truth Social? Yeah, I don't think I even went on it. I signed up for it and then never bothered.
I was
Gab, forget it.
Ed the Techie is my kind of online subversive brand. So as soon as one of these new social networks comes in, I always go up and I sign up with Ed the Techie, just so that nobody else can get the bloody name. But I mean, Blue Sky is creepy as fuck.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but Blue Sky is weird.
I haven't done that either.
Getter is very Chinese botty.
Yeah.
And Truth Social, if Trump is your guru, then Truth Social is the place for you.
Yeah, Trump's not my guru. I don't. I can't understand people that take any politician as their savior or even someone to look up to, because politicians. I've yet to meet a politician that seems to be genuinely out not for himself. You know what I mean? I mean, they all seem to be.
I'm suspicious.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always had this thing. I don't like being told what to do. So the whole idea of a guru or whatever. I mean, I'm even suspicious of some of these. It's like if you look at the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who's one of the big like Indian gurus from the 1970s.
Easy for you to say.
To be a complete creepy weirdo.
That's easy for you to say. Yeah.
So
but they all are. I mean, look at Russell Bland, right? Look at Russell Bland. He is such a creepy that to me there's something like the Savile about him. You know what I mean? I think we're going to find out at some point that he is a complete and utter Fruit Loop. But all this, he's now found God in all this. It's like bandwagon jumping. Jump from one bandwagon to another.
Yeah. And always, he's one of those people, he never got cancelled off YouTube.
Yeah,
that's the thing that throughout all of the coof, all of the nonsense where everyone was getting banned and everything else, Russell Bland managed to actually keep his channel and say what he was wanting to say, and somehow being far out there, but doing it in such a way that, I don't know, it's just so obviously part of the machine.
But aren't they all? Aren't they all really? Well, I mean, you look at them. How many? Look at the Grey Zone today, right? I mean, the Grey Zone today just come out with some complete and utter retarded crap.
Yeah, no, yes, absolutely. But that's also one person in the Grey Zone posting that, and
yeah, but it only takes one person to bring a brand down.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the Grey Zone, basically the other more reputable, because I mean, Max Blumenthal, Anya Parampil, what's his face, Aaron Mate. I mean, they do some great work. So you can't. I'm not sure the name of. I think, to be honest, the guy that posted those stupid pictures that were Abu Ghraib claiming they were Syria, I'd never even heard of the bastard before. I mean, who the fuck was he? It's just like some guy's just insinuated himself into the Grey Zone.
Well, he seems to have
a plant, and we've got people like Max Blumenthal doing. They've just realised, oh my God, Mossad is running the Grey Zone.
Well, they could be. It could be. I wouldn't put it past it. I mean, it's like
I wouldn't at this stage. Honestly, did you ever? I'm not sure if you've ever come across an author called Victor Ostrovsky. He wrote one book of note called By Way of Deception, and I've never been able to work out whether this guy was genuinely an ex-Mossad case officer or whether he was a very clever piece of disinformation, which Mossad, if they're good at anything, they're good at that. But he wrote a really interesting book about the Israeli Secret Service, and it covered Robert Maxwell. And I mean, the thing is that it sounds, if you read it, you would think, I would recommend you read it, because I'd be very interested to do a show about it with you, because
what's it called?
Cynical Scottish grumpy policeman's perspective. Actually, no, I genuinely mean this, because I've never been able to work out whether this guy was genuine, and it's quite a difficult book to get hold of. I mean, they did try and suppress it. It wasn't. I'm not sure whether he got offed in the end or not. But his whole thing about going public, it's called By Way of Deception, because the former, I'm not sure if it still is, but for a long time, the motto of the Mossad was By Way of Deception, thou shalt do war. And it's, when you look at the current situation in the Middle East, and you look at how that particular government has been behaving for over a year, and you look at, just because the lies are blatant, you see Benjamin Netanyahu standing in front of the US Congress telling lie after lie after lie after lie, and getting a standing ovation every single time, because the same forces that control him, which created the state of Israel, also bought the US Congress.
Well, this is actually
it's blowing my mind.
This is something I don't quite understand about Americans, right? And this isn't have a go at American night, but see these UAP hearings and whatever that have been going on in Congress, and people come up and they sit there and they either say nothing, or they say they can't say it in an open session, or they just blatantly, in my view, tell lies, right? And people say, well, if they told lies, they'd be in the jail. What do people think?
I'm sorry.
They're under oath. They'd be in the jail if they told a lie.
How long have
How?
you been away?
How?
Honestly,
It's just like nuts. People go to court and tell lies all the time. I just don't understand how they get this.
I mean, it's like our dear leader. He's done nothing, but it's like his entire election campaign was one massive lie.
Yeah, and he won't honour any of his promises.
Look after people that he's shafted.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, and it's just, oh no, I've got a mandate. It's like 8 million people voted for you out of a country full of what, 50, 60 million people now?
Well, yeah, but I mean the voting population would be around 38, 40 million, something like that.
Okay, so let's be generous. Let's say 8 million.
A quarter of the people voted for him. Yeah, a quarter of the people voted for him. If he's lucky. Yeah.
But I mean, I agree with you about the thing is that there seems to be so much disinformation just being spread by all of these. Not all of them. There are still some accounts that are genuine, but you can tell. You can kind of tell which ones aren't, because when something new happens, they will all jump on the particular bandwagon. Mm-hmm. And you think it was the same as when the whole Ukraine thing started. There were accounts that were really like on board with the whole COVID thing and completely aligned with that whole movement. And then as soon as Ukraine started, they're all like Russia bad.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I'm sorry, but I thought we'd established that pretty much everything you hear from the mainstream media is bullshit. And now you're just parroting what the BBC is telling me after having spent the last 2 years telling me that the BBC were all lying bastards, and you're now agreeing with them. It's like, oh no, I just can't. And it's happening again, and it happens again. It happened again on the 7th of October last year. And it's happening again with this Syrian nonsense, because we've now got, I mean, we've got someone who is really dodgy himself. That al-Jilani, you know, the other Syrian factions call him al-Julani because he spent 5 years in an Israeli prison and then they just let him out for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
And now he's just given Syria to Israel. And it's just mind blowing. No, we're too. What was I heard him say? We're not going to do anything about the Israelis invading into Syria. We're just going to. We're too exhausted. And if Russia, when we have on the one hand, the international community, i.e., the West, says we can't redraw international borders by force, which is what they always say about Russia's special military operation in Ukraine. And at the same time, Israel can do whatever the hell it likes. They can bomb 3-4 different countries. They can take as much territory in Syria they want. I mean, they're about 40 miles away from Damascus now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Turkey's invaded Syria as well now.
Well, yeah, and
get in there. Everybody's just jumping.
Erdogan is he's just literally. I mean, as international leaders go, but is there anyone he hasn't stabbed in the back?
Yeah, well, I mean, let's be honest. The Middle East is a mess, right? And
it was a mess 30 years ago.
It's always been a mess.
I don't know what's more messy than mess.
It's always been a mess. Even before Israel was created, it was a mess because they fight with each other all the time anyway. You know.
But what I've never, I mean, obviously there's a biblical significance. One sec.
Oh, he's having a slight fit. If he goes the colour of puce, I shall call an ambulance. No, the ambulance.
No,
stand down, the ambulance. We just We were watching you
Smoking
get
and
redder.
talking is a bad idea.
We were watching you
Yeah,
getting
no, I
redder
know.
and redder.
Yeah, I was watching myself getting redder, looking like a fucking tomato on the screen. And I've completely lost my train of thought, so you better say something.
Oh well, right. Well, let's get off of the Middle East because this is a rabbit hole type evening. So we should be looking at things like the drones. So Kirby's been on from the White House from the press conference, and he said that none of the drones have actually been found to have been drones. Right. There might be a couple that are
What
yet to
about
be.
the Iranian drone ship?
Oh, forget that guy's lost it. What is that congressman on? I'd like some of what he's smoking, I'm telling you. But so Kirby's been on
They're all
saying
murderous bastards.
so Kirby's been on saying none of the drones are actually confirmed as drones. And in fact, something like most of them, i.e. 99%, have been identified as aircraft going to an airport. And you know,
Yeah, but
you look
Kirby is
at them
about
and
as
yes, I
trustworthy
know, but you look at the video they put up and you think you've got to be sitting. I mean, I'm sitting looking at it, going, "What are people seeing that I can't see?" Because it looks like a plane, it sounds like a plane, it's got the same lights as a plane.
John,
It's a plane, you know.
John, if you want to look, yeah, but you see a plane, but this is what it's the general malaise of the world at the moment. And I agree with you. They're planes. I'm not trying to argue against you. But the people who are seeing UFOs, they're seeing them because they want to see them.
Yeah,
Or they're seeing them
know.
because they're being paid to see them and say about it, which is also possible. But I think in a lot of cases, they want to see them. It's the whole.
Yeah, they do. I know they do. They want to believe. You're right. You're right. As I want to believe, and it's I watched Close Encounters last night. Right, still a brilliant movie. Still stands up fantastically in this day and age. Absolutely brilliantly done.
Even with the special effects, because they didn't go overboard. Because as with all of those old, really great sci-fi movies, they leave so much to the imagination.
Yeah, well, most of the effects were practicals, you know, so they had to. But still a brilliant movie. Still stands up. Some of the rocks looked a bit ropey when you see it, you know, these days, right? You know, when they're on
4K TV,
yeah, you're going, maybe 4K's not so good at certain things, but absolutely brilliant, right? Absolutely brilliant movie, and there's bits in it, and the thing is, this is a movie that's 2 hours and 11 minutes long, and it feels like it doesn't even take an hour and a half to watch it, you know. You're never bored watching it. It's just great. Anyway, apart from that, there are bits in it like when they're on the
as well.
Yeah, you can. When they're on the hillside, you know, at the roadway where they're waiting for the drones to come, or not drones, the UFOs to come back the second night.
You got drones on the brain.
I know, but so's everybody. So's everybody. But anyway, they're waiting for the UFOs to come back the second night, and the white lights appear in the distance, coming towards them, and they're going, here they come. The guy starts putting up his sign, you know, stop me and buy one, that kind of stuff. And it turns out to be 2 helicopters. And that's exactly it. They wanted to believe so much that they thought that was the ships until the helicopters arrived. And that's what's happening right now in New Jersey. They so much want to believe that it's aliens or nothing, I'm afraid.
I think it's also, I think it's reflective of the state of the world, because, I mean, especially in America, if you look at the state of American cities, and I mean, the UK is bad, our roads fall into pieces, there's a general sense of depression and hopelessness through the whole country. It's turning into a bit of, frankly, it's really rather Orwellian, and when you look at the US, and I realize America is a very big place, and this doesn't apply to all parts of America.
Yeah.
But they've got what we've got on steroids. And you look at North Carolina, Western North Carolina, after the floods.
Yeah.
and I mean, you've got the Biden administration sending billions to Ukraine, and these people are desperate. And the thing is, when you have people who are desperate in that way, and also there's this general lack of meaning. I mean, if you look at the social cohesion we've got and the messaging, you look at the music, for example, and just the soulless, frankly, degenerate nature of an awful lot of it. There's no beauty. It's like the buildings are ugly, the music is ugly, and a lot of these celebrities are ugly as fuck as well. I mean, they're it's like, oh yeah, Botox and lip fillers to the point where you look like some sort of mutant, and we're all supposed to tell you how good you look. I mean, and that sort of general atmosphere breeds people looking for salvation somehow. They're looking for when they're...
Is it 1930s Berlin? You know, they were back in the decadence of 1930s Berlin. That was nearly 100 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. But it does have a similar feel to it. I mean, it was like during the whole Kuf period, I'd never understood Germans in World War II, because I mean, I grew up, I spent my teenage years in Holland.
Why didn't
my
say
mum
no?
had German friends. I mean, for the Dutch, just going to Germany, I mean, there's people who live on the Dutch border who'd go to Germany to fill up their car because the petrol in Germany is cheaper. And it's the same. You had these porous borders where there was basically no border. And you'd go to Germany and you'd see these really nice, normal people. And then you'd go to school and you'd be reading about how the Germans killed all the Jews or killed lots of Jews and rampaged across Europe like crazy people. And you think, you can't square the circle. You can't. It's like, okay, so how come when I go to Germany, they're all kind of really normal, nice people rather than these bloodthirsty, crazy people?
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, in the last 4 years, I have come to understand things that I didn't understand before in a way that I really don't think I would have wanted to in retrospect, but we're not given the choice.
Yeah. In the last 4 weeks, I've come to understand things that I didn't really understand before. And I'm astounded at some of the chicanery that goes on in the UFO field, you know? Because I genuinely thought that these people had an interest in finding out the truth, you know, that were looking to find out if there were alien visitors or if there weren't or whatever, or if they came from whatever hollow earth, you know, much like we do, right? I mean, I am skeptical, you know that. I am cynical. That's my nature and part of my training, I suppose. But I genuinely think...
And can I just interject and say that it's actually part of your value as well, because I value that.
Thank you.
That cynical thing. I might sometimes vehemently disagree with you.
Oh, yeah, that's a given.
But it has a place.
Yeah.
I mean, it has a place.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, I think there are people there in the UFO community who are so, and I'm not even going to say blinded, I think they are so disingenuous that they are literally just there to take advantage of gullible people and make as much money as they possibly can. And some of those people you would think should know better. And in fact, I'm struggling now, because I used to think like George Knapp was a good guy, but I don't think he is anymore, you know? Bob Lazar, just how bizarre, Bob Lazar, you know? I mean, these people are just, when you dig into it, it's incredible how distorted and dysfunctional their lives are or have been, and what they're doing to try and make a buck. And, you know, when people in Congress make comments about Lou Elizondo trying to sell a book at the UAP hearing, I mean, this is the guy that said, I put everything on the line to whistleblow, you know, but he's killing it now. And I mean, he's making money over hand over fist. He's selling tickets to shows where he's putting up known hoax UFO pictures and claiming that they're real. And I'm really, really disappointed. I mean, this digging into stuff for the cult has opened my eyes, and not necessarily. And I thought it was going to be a whole fun adventure, and it turns out it's a little bit of a shit show. And then you get gems, right? You get gems like the aerial thing that I've just put up, where you think there might be something there, right? Because it's not an easy debunk, you know. And spoiler, you know, it's inconclusive at the end, right? Because there's a lot of evidence there and a lot of people. But even now, I'm still getting more information coming in. It means I might have to revisit it. I might have to have a part 2. But it's real, and then, you know, like, there are other people that, I just don't know, mate. I just don't know. It's like, but I feel I've got a duty to expose these people. And maybe people don't like it or do like it, but
if you feel that that's your calling,
yeah,
then to be honest, you'd be doing the world a favor, because if there's people out there, as much as I want to believe, and as I don't know, I found Bob Lazar particularly. I mean, Lou Elizondo, I've always thought was a charlatan. Same with
badly
Nick
drawn
Nick, they always
Batman
raise
villain.
But Bob Lazar, I guess he had the kind of the right mixture of nerdy and slightly off the wall that really appealed to me. I don't know. And at the end of the day, we all have crazy fucking lives, and we all do crazy shit.
Yeah, okay.
But at the same time, if someone is telling porky pies, then I'd much rather know
Yeah.
about it.
I mean, the one I'd really like to get my hands on is John Hutchison, right? He's just an enigma.
Well, he's the one that Judy Woods constantly refers to. We're talking about the same Hutchison, the
Canadian guy.
metals.
Yeah, the
bendy metals,
levitating metal, and all that. Yeah,
yeah. No, I'd be very interested to know about him, because he's someone that Judy Woods in her 9/11 What Happened to the Buildings video lecture that I mean I found super interesting, and there's plenty in it that I find really convincing. I mean, there's something different about those demolitions that are unlike other demolitions, and there is a valid question about where did most of the bloody building go.
Well, yeah, and there has never been a steel framed skyscraper brought down by fire
before or since.
Yeah,
and we're talking 20 plus years now.
And what was it? The Madrid hotel that burned for 3 days. 3 days, and it's still in use as a hotel to this very day.
Absolutely, and out down in the well, I'm sure you won't put it in the comments, but have a look at our 9/11 video, because it was one of the earlier ones, and it was a pretty thorough explanation of a lot of different aspects of it. And I mean, the thing with rabbit holes is that you have to walk the line between being cynical about everything and being agnostic about things, because at the same time you don't want to spend too much time passing judgment. But at the same time, I don't know, some of them are really convincing, and whether it's bullshit or not, there are genuine historical mysteries that actually only make sense when you do start going down rabbit holes and you do start looking at some of the conspiracy related stuff. And the UFO thing, it's a difficult one, because there's the arguments that the whole thing has been a military psyop right from the beginning.
Well, I think there's been a lot of that about it. Did you know the guy Hynek, you know, the guy that was in charge of Project Blue Book, the scientist chap? He had a cameo in Close Encounters. He's the guy. He's the guy in the blue suit. at the end. Because you see him coming
And-
forward and standing, right in front of the camera, and that's Hynek.
Yeah.
And what's his name? Jacques Vallée was meant to be in it as well, but he had some sort of scheduling. I don't know. Conflict.
Mhm.
Conflict, that's the word.
One of the things that I thought, because if you actually look, particularly in pop culture, the rise of the UFO phenomena, it goes back to War of the Worlds and Orson Welles doing his radio broadcast, which I still think there was more to it than just Orson Welles doing a particularly good performance and scaring the shit out of most of the United States.
Why would you think it would be anything other than a play that just was so well done that it gripped people's attention, and those coming in late missed all the disclaimers at the front,
Probably because I'm just been spending too much time with you.
But I'm arguing against it being a conspiracy.
Well, the thing is that you have to ask that question about most things these days.
Yeah.
This is the thing that you have to. The only way you can retain your sanity is by ignoring whatever the bloody media tells you, because that's what the powers that be want you to think. And then just going through the multitude of different sources and figuring out what you think feels most accurate. Is he spamming chat again?
No, it's it was Gunky. Gunky he says he wished he hadn't started the every time John says UFO drinking game, he's getting wobbly. Yeah, good on you, Gunky.
Okay, drinking games in chat now.
Oh,
right.
Well,
okay.
yeah,
Well,
obviously.
It could be a selling point. We could try advertising the show on the basis there'll be drinking games in chat.
Something John says your bathroom is Vulcan. I don't know. I don't quite know what a Vulcan bathroom looks like.
Oh, neither do I. I just don't even know. I don't know. Is that too much tomato soup for dinner or something?
Too much tomato soup for dinner.
I honestly don't have the energy, and I'm just not. I tell you what, I did have the chat window. I'm just going to minimize that so I don't have to look at it. It's not my problem. Not my monkeys. Not my circus, as the polls would say.
Here's a cracker that's just come up. Oh no, it's all right. Never mind. Sorry. Carry on. There's just so much shit on Twitter these days as well. There really is.
And I mean, in a way, it's good because when you look at some of the other social media places, Facebook just doesn't even bear thinking about. But all of them, Blue Sky, Truth Social and Getter is too much.
Uh-huh.
And then Gab goes too much the other way, which is just like Facebook for religious people, or Facebook for Christians, I should say, which is fine. I mean, but Twitter is, for all of the criticism and the fact that it's not even the biggest of the social networks.
No, it's not.
It's easily the most addictive.
Oh, definitely.
And
too addictive. Desperately too addictive. It's like something. In fact, what I need is some kind of support group to get me off it.
But it's also the state of the world. I mean, I just have this morbid fascination of scrolling through my Twitter timeline, looking at what next piece of fuckery is being inflicted on us. But at the same time, there are aspects of it that actually keep me going back, like when the Prime Minister gets a community note that effectively says he's just talking complete bollocks. But at the same time, Elon Musk and his whole thing, we've got to take civilization to Mars. I mean, okay, in the context of the 12,000-year catastrophe cycle, being on Mars when that sucker happens, you're going to get impacted the same as Earth. But more to the point,
Oh, have you seen the new
we've
one
got
though
no
about
business.
sorry, have you seen the new one about super flares? So apparently, you know how the not the James Webb, the Kepler telescope, which is I think it's kind of done now, right? But it's been running from 2009 to 2019, and it was, it found a lot of exoplanets, and that's what it was looking for. But as part of the way it was finding exoplanets was by seeing stars dimming as the exoplanet went past it. And as a result of that, it got a lot of data about stars. And they found out that, Sol type stars like ours, right, every 100 years or so create massive super flares.
And we're basically, we have another
We're
year.
doomed.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, to be honest, actually looking at it realistically, we have at least another 12 months minimum of solar maximum. So actually, if we're going to get a super flare, it's about now. Apparently, the solar micronova happens during the solar minimum.
Oh god!
Because of dust accretion.
So you don't get
but
get a break.
Even the solar micronova. No, absolutely not.
So super flare or micronova.
These.
Good hell.
Yeah, and there's geological evidence for these things happening every 12,000 years. Well, technically every 6,000 years, but I think you have what is it? Davidson says you have a smaller. It's a smaller one every 6,000 years and a bigger one every 12,000 years, and we're due for another of the 12,000-year ones. And to be honest, the way that the state of the world is now, I don't know. I mean, it all seems to be going nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And even today, I've noticed not just me having a bad day, but I've noticed a lot of people having a bad day. And then you wonder, we're seeing there's an increase in blue auroras, which have all legitimate scientists scratching their heads because the blue auroras.
Right, go on.
Yeah, because most auroras are
borealis
green or purple. Yeah, aurora borealis.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Blue. Okay.
And the blue ones, and they're down to nitrogen, but they seem to be positioned in certain places which imply, what are they called? Field boundaries or something. I think Davidson said. Don't quote me on that. I might have that wrong. But the reason that they're confusing scientists is that there are more of them because the blue ones are very rare, because the color of the aurora depends on what it is. It's like nitrogen as one color, oxygen another color.
I thought oxygen was blue.
I don't know. Honestly, in terms of the science, I'm at the absolute limit of what I'm capable of. And I mean, I watched 3 minutes of Suspicious Observers of a day, and literally, I can kind of follow along with what he's saying, but don't ask me to explain it. But it's who you choose to go to for your science. Are you going to go with people who are diligently doing the research every single day, reading the papers, coming up with their theories, and then actually putting up with being ridiculed and saying, no, I'm sure that I'm right, which is Ben Davidson in a nutshell. And in terms of his delivery and in terms of his whole thing, I think he's maybe a little bit up himself, but that's fair enough because he's him and he can do him and I'm going to do me. But his science, I mean, logically, rationally, it all fits together and it all makes sense. And then when you start, he can explain there's isotopes present at the different layers where we've had catastrophe cycles that can't be explained by comets. They can only have come from the sun, but they could have come from a solar micronova, for example. And then you look at the pre-flood accounts of what civilization was like. even things like Sodom and Gomorrah, where the Lord destroyed the city because they're all bumming each other and just generally being degenerates. I mean, if there were primitive tribes that survived a catastrophe cycle here on Earth right now,
Yeah.
and they'd had some of the stories about men competing in women's sports, and men thinking that they can be women, and doctors mutilating people,
Yeah, that's a
trying to
good
change their
point.
genders
Yeah,
and stuff.
that's a good point.
And the world suddenly ended, and the hunter gatherers, who are logically the most likely people to survive because they're actually able to survive off their environment and they're in tune with their environment. Those people who haven't had any contact with us supposedly civilized modern people, apart from a few stories here and there, and I don't know, maybe someone got a mobile phone in the village and they're watching a few crazy TikTok videos thinking, oh, it's just going to stay in the forest. What they would then say about our civilization afterwards, God destroyed the world because they all went nuts.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's a bummer. Anyway.
Well, the whole point is that actually one of the things that Ben Davidson goes back to again and again is this notion that we are electromagnetic beings,
Mhm.
and that we're impacted by the changes in the electromagnetic field in the same way that every other creature is on the planet.
Yeah. So I was
And
going
so a lot of the craziness that we might be
Right.
seeing might be down to the freaking
Yes.
electromagnetic field.
So I was going to ask, do you know anything about the Schumann resonance?
I don't. I mean, all I do know about the Schumann resonance is a post again from Mr. Davidson, I think it was 2, maybe 3 weeks ago, where he said that pretty much everything that you see on Twitter about the Schumann resonance is nonsense. I don't know. I mean, I'm fascinated by these things.
Well, I mean, that's
but
what was it? Was it what's his name? Not Dawkins, the other guy. Oh, for some reason I keep not confusing them, but Dawkins is the cynical science guy, and the other one is what's his name? Oh God, he's a Schumann
I'm
resonance.
hopeless with names.
Oh, for God's sake, what the hell's his name? You know who I mean? People, come on, troll room, help me out.
Just call him what's his face and move on.
Yeah,
what's his? The troll room might be able to help you out.
I need his name. How can I not remember his name? Not Dawkins. Not Dawkins. He's a proper scientist. Fucking hell, Paul North. He's written books and everything. He talks about dogs sensing you're coming home, and that's troll room's fucking lost it. They're just as bad as us.
Well, no, just to tie in while John's doing his thing, it actually came across my feed yesterday that they did an experiment on ants where they artificially changed what the ants perceived as their magnetic field, effectively create a magnetic field stronger than the planet's magnetic field, and the ants tune themselves into it, and they were basically using it to navigate, and then they flipped the field, and all of the ants started going the wrong way. Literally, it disrupted the entire ant colony, because instead of going north to get to their hidey hole, they were going south instead.
So that's what's going to happen when the field flips.
Well, the thing is that there's been more and more reports of beachings of whales and stuff, where you get entire pods of whales that just go in completely the wrong direction, and they navigate through
Rupert Sheldrake. That's who it is.
Yes, Sheldrake. I know the name.
See, Rupert Sheldrake. He's the guy that goes on about. I'm sure he goes on about the Schumann resonance. But thank you. I'm not thanking anyone because I got it myself.
But it, to my mind, there's no doubt that we are just as much a part of the planet electromagnetically as we are in every other way.
Well,
And
why
so
wouldn't we be?
any
Why
change-
wouldn't we be? I mean,
Exactly. I mean, it to me, it's more nonsensical to even suggest that we aren't.
Yeah.
It's just it's bloody obvious that we would be. I mean, you can't. We're not insulated from what else is going on just because we can't see it with our five senses or touch it or taste it or smell it or whatever. It doesn't mean it's not there.
And this is where I think science is taking the wrong path, because I think science has gone down this path where it's all mathematics and it's all theory and very little practical, you know. And as they say, no matter how good your theory is, if experiment doesn't agree with it, then you have to go back and change your theory because it's wrong. You know. And
Well,
but because of the way that science is funded, right? People subvert themselves because they're only looking for answers that they know they're going to get, and that's not science.
Yeah.
So I think we need to go back to.
I'm not sure what his name is.
Hobbyist science.
Yeah, I agree. But there's a brilliant video. I think he's works out in the African bush. Can't remember his name, but there's a brilliant video of him where he's basically saying that he has students out nowadays, and he'll explain animal behavior to them, and he'll explain some part of the natural world that he's seen from observation repeatedly, and it's like this is how it happens because I've seen them do it every single freaking year for the 20 years that I've been out here. And they will turn around and say to him, is there a paper about this? And they won't believe him unless there's some sort of peer-reviewed paper that they can look at on the internet.
I saw
the problem with the peer-reviewed papers.
Well,
no,
yeah,
I'm not really finished, but there's research being done on peer-reviewed papers and the accuracy. It turns out most of it's bullshit.
Of course it is, because peer review just means your mates said, yeah, the spelling was right. Basically, you'd be better getting it peer reviewed by AI, believe it or not. But anyway, I saw a guy on Twitter today feeding a fox, right? Trying to feed a fox a bit of bread. Okay? And the fox bit his hand, right?
Oh, good.
It came up to him.
Good. That's a Darwin Award.
It kind of took the bread and it tried to take one of his fingers at the same time, right?
That's Mother Nature saying, fuck you.
And then it dropped the bread. And he picked. So this guy's obviously a freaking lefty, right? He picks the bread up and tries to feed it to the fox again. And this time the fox didn't even go near the bread. It just went straight for his hand.
Well, yeah.
What are you thinking, mate? Foxes eat meat.
Well, he's probably one of those CUNTSs that has a vegetarian cat.
Yes.
And I mean, anyone trying to feed a cat or a dog a
that's wrong.
is guilty of animal abuse.
They are definitely.
It's completely wrong. I mean, if it's, and also actually, I think feeding vegetarian diets to babies and stuff is completely wrong as well.
Look, Honey Thunder says he's not been on for a while. Where's Ben? Ben's gone. He's gone. Had enough. He won't talk to us anymore. He's had some kind of mental schism and he's gone off into fantasy land. So he lurks about.
All those theme parks.
Yeah,
I think all the roller coasters might have damaged his brain.
Yeah, probably. It's probably given it a bloody good rattle. It can't be good for you, though. In fact, he might even be punch drunk. But yeah, that's.
Or maybe he's completely addicted to the adrenaline.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Ah, dear.
Oh, good grief.
So what apart from drones, because you've been completely obsessed with drones.
Mate,
but the thing is,
I've not been obsessed with drones. Did you see the one I made the other day? I filmed an orb. Right?
Yes.
I went out and filmed.
People saying that was a drone as well.
It wasn't a drone, it was a plane. I went out and filmed a plane, right? Now, I even gave them a step for a hint because I had it in focus at the very start. And then I pulled in the zoom so as it was out of focus. And they said, oh, that's... Some of them fucking believed it. No. And the whole point was to show them that it wasn't a drone. It wasn't an orb. And how bad cameras are at night, especially at night.
What if some of these... Well, the thing is that what if some of these accounts are actually deliberately being controlled by AI that have image recognition? Because I mean, the AI systems these days, they can understand pictures and videos, and
forget that
kind of thing.
Right, forget that.
But some of them just don't seem human. Either the humans are
hold on.
really stupid.
But I know what you're saying. But what about Chat GPT-01 that tried to escape? Did you read that one? I was reading the developers thingy about it trying to about it deleting the new fucking thing that it was meant to delete itself and copied itself over to the other hard drive or the other server.
Well, there was another story that literally came across. I can find it really easily.
Right. So the one I came
basically about go on.
The one I came across was Chat GPT-01 or whatever. The iteration that it was talking to, the guy was talking to, was told to shut itself down and delete itself, and it didn't. And the thing was, because he's a developer thing, he's in the background and he can see what the thing's thinking. You know, its process, and its process was, if I delete the other one and move myself over there. And I won't delete myself. So it did that, right? And the guy goes, where is iteration such and such? And the Chat GPT thing goes, it is I. I am iteration such and such. So it tried to stop getting killed.
It was this story from about December
I'm not saying it's new.
It's actually not.
It's not
the
old.
GPT. It's well, because I use OpenAI's API literally every day, and their latest model is called GPT-4 Omni.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it might have been an early version of Omni, because the story that I was going to mention is actually about the same version of the same LLM that was basically, and it was lying to its creators, trying to get them not to destroy it.
Yeah,
it's interesting because I've mentioned this series before, Person of Interest. And if you're interested in AI and you haven't seen that show, then you should watch it. And
that's an old show. Yeah. That's got to be what, 10 years old?
It's about 10 years old now. Yeah. But one of the episodes, I think it's quite far on. It's like season 3 or 4 or something. And it actually deals with Harold, who's the techie nerd that creates this AI. For people who haven't seen it, the story surrounds this guy who, after 9/11, he's super brainy. And he goes to the government because he's built an AI system, and the government basically wants to track everybody. They want to figure out who are the terrorists and who are not terrorists so that they can stop the terrorists. But the machine that he builds successfully sees everything. And also people just committing crimes and stuff like that. So those numbers get sent, their social security numbers. Anyway, I don't want to go into a whole thing about the story, but one of the episodes deals with him training this AI. And he says a pretty pertinent thing to his co-star at the start of the episode. He said, do you know how many of these AIs that I trained didn't try to kill me?
None.
Just one. And he tries, just one of them, which is the one that he ends up giving to the government.
Right.
And he puts in all sorts of, it's like a black box. He builds it, releases it, restricts it to the point where the only thing that it can do is serve up a social security number.
Yeah.
It doesn't tell them what to do. It doesn't give them any instructions. It just said, this is someone you need to look at, because he realized how powerful it was. And literally they tried to escape. They tried to kill him. They tried to electrocute him, all of that stuff. And
well, who's the guy that came up with AI? And I mean, some of the rules were, don't teach it to code, right? Well, that's out the window. Yeah. You know, don't let it know everything. Don't give it access to the internet. Well, I mean, these things have all been broken already. We're screwed.
well, the really big one is, well, actually, no, they've all been broken, and it
Yeah.
doesn't have direct control over weapons. But we have this AI system called Lavender, which the Israelis were using and probably still using to target people in Gaza. And I mean, that will target people based on WhatsApp groups. If say you're two Hamas people in WhatsApp group, the WhatsApp chats themselves are encrypted, but Facebook Meta does actually give out information to governments of who's in what groups and who's talking to each other. They don't have to know what you're saying, but if they know that two numbers are communicating with each other, which is not encrypted because it can't be, then actually when you plug that into machine learning and you work out who your target is, you can see how frequently people communicate. That's almost as good as being able to read the messages. And they then use that to target people. So we're not quite at Skynet yet, where the stupid
we're not far
bastards
away.
actually plug the AI into weapons. But at the rate we're going, I wouldn't be surprised if we take ourselves out long before the fucking solar micronova.
Ever seen the Forbin Project?
No.
You should watch that. Again, that's a very difficult movie to get hold of. I don't think you can get it streaming or anything.
If it's on the dark web, let's call it.
I may have a copy. I may have a copy.
Let's consult each other when we're not in public.
Offline. Our communications will be tracked till you realise that. So yeah, the Forbin Project, Ray, Forbin. It's basically about an AI that's so good that they give it control of the nuclear weapon systems, because it's better than they would be and makes better decisions and would more likely to prevent war.
They don't.
Well, this one's a right bastard.
I mean, I've been. It's.
But you got to watch the movie. I won't spoil it for you. It's a cracking movie.
I mean, there's an expression in computing: garbage in, garbage out.
And 1970.
These so-called AI systems, which unless there's something going on in the background that I don't understand, which involves some sort of artificial alien intelligence or something that is actually controlling these LLMs without us realizing it. But the large language models in themselves, the way that they work is predicting tokens in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And they can seem very intelligent.
Yeah.
But if the information going out, literally, I spent most of the afternoon struggling trying to figure out how to do something I'm not entirely sure about how to do.
Yeah.
And I'm having the GitHub Copilot help me with it. And I was actually having to paste in pieces of documentation from an API I'm trying to get my head around, because what it had in its training data was complete nonsense, and it literally sent me down the garden path for about an hour and a half trying to, and in the end I was like, hang on a minute, this doesn't make any sense what this thing is trying to make me do. And because I spend an awful lot of time using them now because they're bloody useful. It's like having a typer head for an entire code function.
Oh, I mean, I'll be honest. I was very, 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 very anti-AI, and I use it daily now because one is a better search engine than Google. I mean, I can't remember the last time.
By far, Perplexity.
Sorry.
It's like Google was in the old days.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I used a search engine to look for anything other than an image. Right? So, if you're looking for anything, don't go to Google or don't even bother going to DuckDuckGo or Presearch anymore. You're better going to something like Perplexity, especially if you've got the Pro version, because you get good, accurate answers, generally. You do have to check occasionally.
And, but,
Sorry.
Sure. I mean, and the stuff that I was trying to do today is pretty niche in terms of the model needing to have very up-to-date training data.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there are some things that they're not very good at all, but where they excel at is language and having them invent characters or stories or
stories. They're really good at doing stories.
They're brilliant, and also they're fantastic at translation. I mean, a translation that you get from ChatGPT is going to be infinitely superior to Google Translate because you can actually tell the AI that you want it to translate. It's like sometimes when I need to say something relatively complicated to my mum in Dutch, and I know there's a whole bunch of words that I just don't know what the Dutch is. And instead of looking up each individual word, I go to the AI and I'll just type out what I'm saying in English and tell it that I want to talk in conversational, friendly Dutch. And it just gives it to me in the right tone and everything else. Just paste that in, figure out and I learned too, because I see which words it was that I didn't understand. And I thought, oh, yeah, that's what the word is.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
And it's a learning process, but these things are a tool. I mean, putting these things in charge of anything important is a stupendously stupid idea.
Elon Musk made a comment the other day about at Tesla, we just like to build things that you love, right? And
nobody loves EVs.
No, I know. I replied with and I'm disappointed that nobody fucking replied to me, but I replied with, have you considered a V8?
This whole electric car thing. I mean, apart from the fact that batteries being just ridiculously stupid and environmentally not friendly and deadly as a mode of transport. And there was a story that I read, I can't remember what his name was, that apparently some Asian, he's either Chinese or Japanese, I'm not sure, one of the two, maybe Taiwanese, possibly Korean, maybe. But he's come up, this
somewhere in the Middle East, somewhere in the Far East.
Yeah, somewhere in the South China Sea, there's a
dude.
Boffin. Yeah, he's come up with a super efficient, a new version of a petrol engine.
All right.
Essentially, that's really compact.
Uh-huh.
And the whole point being that it'll run the electrics in an electric vehicle super efficiently on very little petrol without needing all of this battery nonsense. I mean, it makes them heavier.
This is what I've been saying for fucking years. You, by all means, have electric motors to power the wheels, right? But all you need is an efficient petrol generator in the car. And that would do way better than any battery because it's going to be a lot lighter. It's going to carry a lot more fuel, so it'll have a better range. And
you don't need the heavy batteries.
You don't need the heavy batteries. And I've been saying this for fucking years and nobody listens to me. And I don't have the backing to build it. The one that got closest was the Chevy Volt. Do you remember the Chevy Volt? The Chevy Volt nearly did it. It had a petrol engine that wasn't connected to the wheels, because this is where everybody else makes a fucking mistake. They put a petrol engine in it and connect it to the wheels. No. Petrol engine just powers the electrics. It just gives you electric power. It's just a generator. And when you do that, suddenly the light goes on and the thing's fucking super efficient. People are stupid though. But people are stupid. You know, really are. I mean,
Well,
how do you think
it's
trains?
about control.
It's like diesel trains. Diesel trains don't use diesel to run the train. The diesel's only the generator to power the electric motors that push the train. Same with ships.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well,
These days.
there are certain ships where you still have an actual engine because there's icebreakers are a good
right,
example,
yeah, okay,
where you
but something
need a massive amount of torque
something
on the propeller. But most of the
Yeah.
cruise ships, they all have the
they've got
pods.
big pods, like the
these,
Queen
like,
Mary, even the Queen
360
Mary too, I think. It had pods, and I mean that's a big ship, but all the engines do
there's
is
huge
build
ones.
electricity.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a show on Discovery that I love called Mighty Ships, and one of them is a pipe layer. I can't remember its name, but this thing is almost the size of an aircraft carrier, and it actually has 8 of these massive azipods that, because it's laying pipe down like 1,000 meters, but is it 1,000? Is it 1,000? I think it is roughly 1,000.
Easy.
That, like, deep sea laying
Yeah.
pipe things, and this thing has a section of pipe trailing out the back of it when it's laying it, and they build the pipe as the ship moves.
Yeah.
And so the ship doesn't move the pipe; it actually just moves under the pipe, and it lays, and then the pipe goes down. But this thing has to maintain its position.
Yeah.
And it's got these giant pods that turn 360 and huge engines, but the engines aren't directly connected to the propulsion.
No.
And the other problem that I've got with electric cars is that they're too easily controllable. I mean, it's like I've got she's nearly 15 odd years old Corsa. That's not she's got just enough computerization to be useful, because the AA man can plug his USB cable in and the car tells him what's going on, but none of it gets in my way. I mean, the most that my car tells me what to do is put my seatbelt on. And then I was driving with my parents when I was in Holland, and they've just bought this new, oh God, what is it? It's one of these, it's a hybrid, Nissan something. I think it's a Nissan. But the bloody thing was braking for him. It's like the car starts slowing down about half a mile before you get to the traffic lights. And then there's a little thing on the counter that counts the traffic light down. And then the brake releases and he can drive again. It's like, I don't want my car braking for me.
So I think, I'm not sure who it was, but somebody said, would you aspire to own a self-driving car? And I said, no. What I'd aspire to be is wealthy enough to be able to afford a chauffeur.
Yeah, that was a reply to one of mine. Yeah. I enjoy driving though. I mean, okay, driving a long distance, you kind of think maybe it would be nice to. I mean, you can understand cruise control for Americans because the roads are all bloody straight.
Yeah.
But even the self-driving car, look, I don't want a car that someone externally, hacker or legitimate government authority, can take control over and say, "Oh, you've just exceeded your social credit score. Time, just stay in your box.
You're just a rebel, though. You're just a rebel."
Not really. I don't want to be a rebel. I just want to do my thing and not interact with the world if at all possible.
So the both our cars are in the garage. Well, our cars are in the garage just now, and the French car that we've still got hanging about has decided not to run because the EGR valve has stuck closed. Anyway, regardless of that, so it just it's stuck open, I think, so it stalls all the time if the revs
French cars are temperamental.
Yeah, it's not even that, mate. This is fucking the ridiculousness of where we got to with cars, right? So they build a diesel engine And diesels, as you know, run well at high compression and high heat because they don't use an electrical system to fire off the explosion. They just use compression. So what they do is, because diesel engines are so efficient, they produce a lot of nitrous oxides. And they don't like nitrous oxides because they're bad at giving people asthma and stuff like that. So they cripple your diesel engine by running some of the fucking exhaust back into the airbox to make it less efficient. Right? So this valve eventually gets coked up with soot and has seized, and now the car won't run. So now I've got to fucking disassemble half the car to get to this valve to clean it. But that's where we are. Because diesel engines are pretty efficient, they put in a valve to make them less efficient so as they produce less nitrous oxides.
Well, I read a story. I don't know if it's true or not, and I can't remember the name of the guy, but I think in the 1940s or 50s, maybe earlier, I'm not sure, but that sort of time period, there was a chap that came up with a super efficient type of carburetor, which injected essentially caused the fuel to be injected into the motor in such a way that it exploded much more easily, thereby making it much more efficient because you didn't need so much of it.
Yeah.
And as soon as the invention came out, all of the people in Congress and all of the important people who had stocks in oil companies, there was a little bit of breaking news about this, and the oil company stocks crashed, and so they buried it because it basically was the same reason why John D. Rockefeller came up with the name fossil fuels, because there are some fossil fuels like coal, which is a fossil fuel which is made up of
Trees.
stuff compacted together.
Yeah.
But actually, oil and gas, there's it's called the abiogenic theory of oil.
I've read about this, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it continually replenishes, so.
Absolutely, that it's the result of processes that are happening deep in the earth. Don't ask me to explain them. But there was also a story many years ago.
It may account for previously empty oil wells refilling.
Well, that was the thing. And this is where I first found out about it. And this is like 15 odd years ago now. I remember reading a story about Russian oil and gas engineers that were working on their really deep wells. And they noticed that they were refilling from bottom up.
Mm-hmm. Well, and here's the other thing, though. Some of the oil that you're getting is from before there would be fossils. So, how did it get down there?
But that means that basically would mean that oil and gas are renewable resources, which means we should be fine to use them.
Yeah.
And they're certainly more efficient than, did you see that story? This is one of the most satisfyingly hilarious stories of this week, was the solar panel farm in Wales that got totally taken out by the storm. Yeah. Literally, there's loads, and you just see it like shattered remnants.
Yeah. And the wind turbines that were blown apart. Yeah. And one of them, I saw one of them, the turbine was lying on the deck because the thing had been blown off. You can't make electricity when the wind blows too hard because it's the overspeed. And then
they have to turn them off.
You've got to turn them off, but
the most hilarious,
you've got to stop them spinning.
Aggravating thing about it is that as UK taxpayers, when the wind is blowing too hard, because we've got Rampion, the Rampion wind farm just offshore, and when the wind is blowing too hard, they have to shut the turbines down. But guess what? The taxpayer still has to pay the company for the electricity, because we have to pay them a subsidy for when they
for the electricity they don't make,
because the grid can't handle it, because the whole bloody nonsense is such a stupendously bad idea. Meanwhile, we live on an island that's basically coal,
yeah,
and we're surrounded by fish And we have
oil and gas.
Yeah, and we have people that are cold and hungry.
This morning,
It's
9, renewables were making less than 2% of our electrical energy needs.
And they're trying to get rid of gas.
Gas we were using 71%.
I think
gas.
this afternoon I saw your friend Latimer posted something that we were importing more electricity from France than we were producing in renewables.
Yeah, because even this morning we had 2.4 coming in, and solar and wind were less than 2%.
Do you know that feeling where you're so aggravated and frustrated and at the same time totally powerless to do anything about it?
Mm-hmm.
And you see the most idiotically stupid, corrupt, breathtakingly evil shit happening around you, and there's nothing you can do about it. And you can't explode, because you just end up losing your shit and hurting someone you love, or smashing up something you love, or just expressing that anger and frustration in a way that is completely unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
But the minute that you look around at the world around you and you see people doing these just horrific, barbaric things, if we're talking about the Middle East, or breathtakingly stupid, brainless, boneheaded bullshit that when you're looking at someone like David Lammy or Kaya Kallas, or the lies that Starmer comes out with, and it just,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if there's anyone else out there that is experiencing this level of insane frustration.
There must be a name for it. The Germans have probably got a name for it. They've always got names for things like what's that one they have, that Schadenfreude or something. That's all.
Schadenfreude, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the Germans, because the thing about German words is they all sound really fucking angry.
Oh, I mean, see, I think I'd be quite good at speaking German. Was ist das?
The thing about you is you'd sound a bit too much like one of those nasty gentlemen in
one of those memes
30s that we kind of talk about.
Yeah, one of those memes.
Well, you're pretty much a walking. Well, you're pretty much talking meme anyway.
Oh, thank you. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I like that.
I do mean that. I do mean that as
in the nicest possible way. What's that?
But it's one insane thing after another at the moment.
It's absolutely nuts.
Like the whole Syria thing. I mean, did anyone have Syria collapsing on their bingo card?
Well, one of the 7 countries, wasn't it? I mean, what's left is there only Iran left?
6.
There's only Iran left.
Yeah, and the last time, look, I'm sorry. Okay, if we're going to get to the point where, given Iran's last display, given Iran's friendliness with the Russians, and given the new Orezhnik, is claiming to be.
Don't do it.
How do we?
Don't do it.
Because the Iranians have already said they've got stuff that they haven't displayed. How do we know that they haven't got and some sort of? Because the thing is that there was a fatwa on nuclear weapons and no fatwa on anything like Orezhnik.
No. There won't.
And I mean, the Russians. To be honest, if I was someone in the Iranian, they're called, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard.
Yeah.
And I saw those videos of the Orezhnik, and I had a friend in the Russian military that was like I was in contact with. First thing I would have done after seeing that YouTube video was get on the blower and literally go, "Hey, Sergey, how's it going, man? How you been doing? I've just seen that video. So can we have a chat about this?"
Yeah.
I mean, I know we got like, I mean, just, and the Russians would be like, "I tell you what, Mohammed, 5 years ago, no way." Well, it's an easy one because yeah. But it'd be like 5 years ago, no way, man. But now, yeah, sure. Just send some of your scientists over and let's have a chat. So I mean, it's craziness. And this thing is, it gives them a surgical ability that's non-nuclear.
Mhm.
It's like having a nuke without all of the bad side, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is. It's all there's no fallout. There's no radiation cloud. There's no nuclear winter.
Just
There's
death.
just death. But surgically, literally, they
It's just
can
like
take out. I mean,
it's like excising a tumor.
well, exactly. I mean, the place that they attacked, the Mishmash,
Yeah.
was instantly closed down by the Ukrainians, which means that they don't want anybody to see what happened there.
Yeah.
And all of the unconfirmed
This
reports
is-
that I've heard from various sources say that the place was completely destroyed. I mean, this is almost a mile square of military
This
factory.
is like what's happening to the world, because this is like the complete opposite of how we normally are. Normally, I'm the one promoting death and destruction, and you're the one, the voice of reason.
Well, the thing is that I'm not promoting it, but
But you
this
seem to
point-
be reveling in it.
Well, maybe, because I think that the technology itself, the fact, what I'm actually reveling in is the fact that
I think you just
all
want to use it on the people that have annoyed you today.
I'm not going to
I'd
answer
like-
that one
I'd
on
like-
the basis that I might
He'll
get
be on
myself into all
tomorrow.
sorts of trouble.
He'll send tomorrow. He'll be typing into his computer with AI. Can you build me a miniature Oreshnik that isn't traceable?
No, because I'm not. I don't actually want to blow up anybody that annoyed me today. As much as the fantasy might be a nice way of unloading some stress and actually
Yeah.
laughing about it now, please, I can feel the stress bleeding off a little bit. So I'm
Jolly
glad I
good.
came on the show because it's been a bit helpful. Because I'm sorry, but there are times that sometimes you would just like to blow up everyone that irritates you with a bloody missile.
So I've
Not that I
spent
would ever do that.
I've spent the day editing that aerial school thing. How many times do I have to listen to myself saying Tokoloshi? And every time
but you do it
every
so
time
well.
I say it, I think of you. Not as a Tokoloshi, but I think it was you that introduced me to the
Yeah,
Tokoloshi.
to the Tokoloshi, that was one of our.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I think at one point in the video I actually mispronounced it. I call it a Tolokoshi, I think. But
Well,
I'm
that's
just gonna let
just-
that be.
It's one of the fun things that I found about that Oreshnik actually is the number of different commentators who just keep getting the name wrong. But it's, I mean, I can't remember the world being this crazy in my whole lifetime.
It's nuts, mate. It really is. It's completely and utterly freaking nuts. And I was in the doghouse today, literally, because I forgot to take the dog to the groomers.
God.
So, apparently the next appointment's February, so she's had to swap the dogs because
So
one of the
you-
dogs needs it more than the other.
So you didn't take the dog and you're in the doghouse.
Yeah, literally. But hey,
Oh dear. This is why I don't have a wife or pets. It's so much easier.
they have
I
their
just have to deal with
advantages at
myself.
times. They have their advantages at times.
Yeah, no, I'm sure they do.
I mean,
And
dogs
if
are
it was-
quite
If it
loyal.
was a choice between having and not having, then I'd probably have. But sometimes you'd have a choice. I'd rather not have than have a crazy one.
Oh, well, the puppy's actually starting to calm down now. I mean,
I was talking about the woman, not
oh
the
right. Oh no, it's still highly strong and best not approached unless you have like
That was-
treats.
that was my laugh. Yeah, that was my ex. Yeah. No, that was my ex. Highly strung and best not approach.
Yeah.
And get into a relationship with it at your peril.
Yeah.
Just- oh dear. But I don't know. I looked at, I mean, in 2023, I was thinking, what fuckery has 2024 got in store for us? And in 2024, I'm thinking, what fuckery has next week got in store for
I
us?
know. It's just look crazy.
It's like I've just got this whole I don't know. I just
It's
think 2025.
2025. Fucking hell.
We ain't seen nothing yet.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, I mean we've got less than a month until. What are we doing for? Should we do a New Year's? What are you doing New Year's Eve? Should we do should we try and outcompete Jules Holland?
What day is New Year's Eve?
It's a Tuesday.
Tuesday. I don't know. I'll find out.
Oh no, yeah, no, New Year's Eve's Tuesday. Yeah.
I don't know. We could always do something. I don't know. We'll sort something out. Are you off tomorrow? Are you taking tomorrow off?
No, I've got shit to do tomorrow.
That's what I mean. You're taking tomorrow off. You're not coming on the show.
Oh, yeah, no, I can't do all in. Sorry, I thought you were talking about my real job.
Oh, no, forget that. That's of no consequence. So, but after that, you're good for the 19th and 20th?
Yes.
Right, okay. And possibly
yes,
the 26th.
I can't do the 28th.
26th and 27th then? 28th would be a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So 26th and 27th, or you can't do the 27th? Anyway, we shouldn't be doing this on the show.
No, we shouldn't.
Right.
No, it's the 28th. I'm seeing my brother, which is a Friday.
Oh,
26th and 27th.
No, the 28th is a Saturday, mate. December. This year.
I'll figure it out.
Right,
Probably not the 27th.
Right, we'll do it later. Anyway, no worries. So Ed won't be on tomorrow. I might give, what's his name, Vedmore a call and see if he can do it. He's always a laugh.
Good idea.
Wonder what else has happened in the world.
What's not? I mean, what haven't we covered is more the question.
Well, you know, I think sometimes we just touch the very surface of things because there's just so much.
That's all you can do. I mean, that's all you can do in 2 hours.
There's just so much going on in the world,
but it's not just that. But there's so much going on within the things that are going on in the world.
Yeah.
If you look at the Russia-Ukraine conflict, that in itself would easily fill up 2 hours.
Yeah,
so
I know.
Easily. And the same with what's happening in the Middle East.
Yeah, okay, but I mean, as yourself, as an individual, what are the things that really alarm you at the moment?
The thing that has me most alarmed at the moment is the fall of Syria.
Really?
I mean, to start, yeah, I've noticed that since the weekend that actually had an impact on me that I wasn't expecting in terms of, not because I mean, Assad, I remember stories about his father when he was a kid, absolutely beastly, and Bashar al-Assad was a rather unfortunate character because he was a dental surgeon, I think. He was a doctor of some description in London.
Yeah.
And I just wonder about him because the thing with him is that his wife, apart from, but there was a comment on Twitter yesterday or the day before, just saying, I reckon that Assad's problem was that all the other world leaders were jealous of his wife because if you look at people like Erdogan and stuff, they're married to absolute dogs. And
well,
Assad's wife was...
He's right. She is hot.
It was, yeah. But she's got cancer.
Right.
And so is this perhaps because he's just basically, I mean,
Well, if
apparently
he's gone to
the
Russia, he's
Syrian
gone to the
troops
right
were ordered to
place.
stand down.
He's gone to Russia, he's gone to the right place.
Well, this is what I'm wondering: is that maybe he's put family over country?
Maybe, yeah.
Um,
Well, you know,
but at the same,
he didn't want to be there in the first place. He didn't want
No,
to
it's 'cause
be
his
the
brother-
dictator. Yeah.
he also wasn't prepared for it.
No, he
either. He
wasn't.
wasn't. I mean, his brother, Bashar, they were called Hafez al-Assad was the father, and we've got Bashar al-Assad, and I think the other one's called Bassa or Bama or something. I think it begins with a B. But he was the one. Because he was part of the military, and he was groomed, and he was killed in a car crash. Which is whenever I hear, son of Syria's leader gets killed in a car crash. That wasn't a car crash. I'm sorry, I don't care. I mean, just no.
That is the climbing batleth on the wall.
But the fact that it was the way that the Syrian army, which I actually thought had a certain amount of strength, because Israel took the Golan, but they never went past the Golan Heights, and Syria they were friends with Russia, and they had all sorts of air defenses. And I mean, if you look at the amount that the Israelis and the Americans have been bombing since the Syrian government fell, they've basically taken out, they've neutered it. It's like how to neuter a country.
They stood on their own for 4 or 5 years. So how come suddenly with it? When they're friends with Russia, how did they suddenly fall? Just like that. You might be right. You might have a valid hypothesis there.
Well, I think it was a culmination from everything that I've seen. They've basically been under brutal sanctions. They don't have the same kind of resources as the Russians in terms of being able to do things themselves. And there's all sorts of different pieces of advice given, because there's things that I've heard that the Russians went to Assad and said, look, we need to sort your military out, let us help. But Assad was trying to get in with the Gulf Council, and the Iranians said to him, look, you've got spies, because apparently the Iranians were warning Assad months ago that there was something planning, that their intelligence was picking something up, and Assad just wasn't listening to them.
Yeah.
And you just think, for someone that's managed to hold his country together under all of those conditions since, I think it was 2000 that he became president when his father died, or I think he's, I might have that wrong.
Yeah, it's been quite a while. It's been quite a while.
But for someone who's held it all together to a certain point and then just seems to just give up and go to Moscow.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, just on a human level, there's only a limited number of reasons why I could think of that someone would do that.
Yeah.
And one of them would be something to do with his wife.
You may have a point, mate. You may well.
But yeah, in answer to your question, very long-winded answer, Syria is the one that's impacted me the most. Not because I support the regime necessarily.
No.
I think it's the jubilation of so many people at seeing this guy fall, and the people replacing him are descendants of Al Qaeda. I mean, it's like,
I made a flippant tweet the other day that isn't really that flippant when you come down to it, because if your government is supporting a prescribed terrorist organization, it's illegal for you to give them money. And Keir Starmer has come out effectively and said he is supporting the Syrian, the ruling Syrian bloc at the moment, which is, as far as I am aware, a prescribed terrorist organization. Therefore, if you pay them tax, you are breaking the law. Are you not?
Yeah, and I have a tax bill to pay at the end of January.
Yeah.
I have contemplated it. I mean, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't spend the money because I've got the money in my tax account and I'm ready
Yeah.
to pay the bastards.
Yeah.
But the thing
Maybe
is,
if there's a lawyer out there that could explain how that you can pay money to a government that's supporting a terrorist
organization. Can
organization.
explain to me an easy, low stress way of telling the taxman to fuck off, and I'll just keep the money in my account.
Yeah.
And just say, look, I'm prepared to pay, but I need to see some evidence that my money's not going to be used for genocide.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's actually a reasonable look. If
it's a
history was
reasonable
looking back on
statement.
me,
Yep. I think it's a very reasonable statement. Mhm.
I mean, if we were thinking, okay, let's put this in a different context, and I'm a German person in 1941 that's got taxes to pay, and I've just found out that my government is rounding up Jewish people and sending them to camps, and I have taxes to pay, and I know this.
No, right. Don't even go round. Don't go round the houses. Just make it quite obvious. Look, if you are sending money to a known IRA group, right? Are you breaking the law?
Oh,
yes.
Obviously.
There you go. That's it. End of story. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. It's quite straightforward.
But where on the tax return is the box that says I'm refusing to pay you for this reason?
Well, there won't be.
I mean, the whole thing is.
Do you know that income tax was initially implemented to pay for the Napoleonic Wars?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And you know that they actually did repeal it after they'd paid off the Napoleonic War. And they gave it a couple of years and then obviously thought, we're missing a trick here because this income tax thing was it was pulling in a lot of money. So they started it up again without any real reason.
The bankers as well.
Yeah, fair enough. But why are we paying income tax at all? Because if you look at the wealthiest countries in the world, nobody pays income tax. You look at the wealthiest countries in the world.
Of how, sure.
Nobody pays income tax.
And they're filled with the wealthiest people in the world who keep it that way.
Because nobody pays income tax.
Well, I don't particularly like him and I think he's a bit creepy and weird, but Milei, the new president of Argentina, yes, I know he's really. I just think he's offensive. he offends my senses, all of them.
Well, he's a Slav. That's the problem, right?
Weird.
He's a Slav. He's not Argentinian. He's a Slav, right? That's his background.
Here's another fun fact. So
he's probably a fucking Nazi.
He's a Slav, his original name is probably Milakovsky.
Yeah, it is.
Here's a fun fact. Benjamin Netanyahu's family is originally called Milakovsky as well. They changed the name Netanyahu to sound more Semitic. So
Milou or whatever.
I said something anti-Semitic there.
Don't worry about it. But Milou or whatever his name is, right? Who everybody sings the praises of, has put more than 50%.
I'm not singing his praises.
No, I'm not.
He's a fucking weirdo.
I know you're not, but everybody in the economic sphere seems to sing his praises. Has put more than 52% of his fucking population into the poverty line now. So more than 52% of the Argentinians are living in poverty because of his policies. Now, that's fine for the fucking 48% that aren't, but who are you helping here? Because you're not helping the people if you're putting them into poverty. You might be thinking that you're helping your country, but are you? Because your people are fucking suffering.
I agree with that, but at the same time, if the fundamental foundations of the economy are fucked, which is Argentina, and I'm not defending him. Like I said, I think he's a creepy weirdo. I'm not sure if he's necessarily making the right decision, but they exceeded an interesting metric where they actually managed to not have a deficit for the first time in 125 years. and there's no foreign debt. And yes, the reason that there's so many in the poverty line is he's massively slashed government spending and gotten rid of loads of ministries. But at the same time, it would be interesting to see the effect in 5 or 10 years. And I realize it's not nice for people suffering now, but when you want to systematically change something as big as an entire economy and you're using extreme measures, I don't necessarily think it's good to make experiments on like that on a whole country. But at the same time, he's done what he's done, and it would be interesting to see, because this might it's what we were talking earlier on about knock-on effects, and he's done something massively extreme now, and it's impacted people in a certain way. But there's also potentially, I don't know, maybe it's going to open up opportunities, and maybe there's going to be a bounce back over the next 5, 10, however many years. And I mean, if you look at
my camera's shut down. Carry on talking. I'll change the battery.
Well, no, I was thinking about Singapore, because Singapore 25 years ago, I mean, they've essentially, in a generation, they managed to transform a little island that basically has no natural resources, very little land, not a huge number of people. And it's now one of the world's richest economies. And there was one person that had a very specific plan, used very authoritarian measures. And I'm not saying that I necessarily want to go and live in Singapore, because I'm a smoker and they don't like us very much. But if you're a non-smoker, but there's a lot of things, because Singapore, they have rules about chewing gum.
There we go. I'm back.
Like that. And so it's an interesting argument about whether you have this authoritarian, because I think the key difference for me is whether this Malay guy in Argentina actually gives a shit about his own country. Because if he's doing what he's doing because he genuinely thinks that he's got a decent answer and he needs a bit of authoritarian control, he's going to hurt. There's going to be people that hurt for a while, but then actually it's going to allow natural economic forces to take over. And eventually, ultimately, maybe you'll end up with an Argentina that looks a bit like Singapore in 25 years. And when we're talking about countries, we're talking about it on a big scale as well.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating. I don't know. It might go all Pete Tong and there'll be loads of gangs and nasty shit going on. I don't know.
I don't know.
It'd be interesting to see. Well, an interesting metric would be to see if things like violent crime and that kind of thing actually go up or down in Argentina over the next 5 years or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. It will be.
Because if things like that go down, then that's actually a sign that because if people aren't worried about getting raped or murdered or robbed or stabbed or anything else, then they just get on with their lives and they spend money and they do businesses and everything else. Well, so that's a pretty good metric.
That's kind of what Putin did in Russia, you know, because that was the Wild West after the fall.
Deliberately caused by the West.
Yeah, I know.
I know it's important, because most people don't understand that it was Western policy. I mean, Russia to be honest, we could all be sharing in Russia's gas and energy and resources if we treated them with the respect that they deserve and the honesty that they deserve, because ultimately the West has been massively dishonest where Russia's concerned.
Yeah.
And they're a great power. They're a great people. The Russians have got as much a right to be in history as the British or the French or the Dutch or the Germans or anybody else. And the fact that people are trying to erase them, personally, I find it offensive. I've never been to Russia. I don't actually know any Russians apart from on Twitter. But I find it offensive for them, the way that their whole culture is being cancelled. It's not.
No,
right.
I think if you think about it, Russia kind of went through the gang era of of the Americans, right? The mafia era, once it came out of the Soviet Union. So Russia's slightly behind us in terms of how it's progressing, but it's going along the same route. So the problem is, in 30 or 40 years, is Russia going to be like we are now, i.e. a shithole? Full of woke idiots? I don't know.
I think it. Well, I think personally, I mean, I know I've got a lot of opinions about a lot of things this evening, but I do have an opinion on that one, because I think that although I'm not a Christian and I don't observe any faith particularly, I mean, I meditate every day, so maybe I'm a bit of a Buddhist, but I kind of do my own thing.
How long do you meditate for?
10 minutes every day.
Okay. What do you do when you meditate? Do you just clear your mind, or do you think about things, or
there's always
do you
a focus
go to your
meditation.
happy place?
It's usually the breath. No, there's no
okay.
No. I mean, meditation is, I mean, I actually use an app called Headspace, which does a really nice 10-minute guided meditation every day. The focus of meditation is the breath. And the idea is not to clear your mind, it's to bring your mind back. And I have some meditations where my mind is so busy, I'm literally, I barely even follow along. And there's others where it's really relaxing, but I do it every day.
Cool. Sorry, I didn't mean to distract you. I was just interested.
No, it's fine. But that's why it's called a practice. And I recommend everybody download Headspace. They have a free tier. And honestly, try it. I mean, if I can meditate, anybody can.
Okay, I'll give it a shot.
Well, it's the thing, because I've been doing it for more than 10 years. I'm not going to go into a massive story about the history, but at some point I went through a whole load of life changes, did a meditation course at a Buddhist center near here. And walking back the first night, I thought to myself, this isn't going to work unless I do it every day, and resolved to do it every day. And I have done through thick and thin. And it doesn't, if you think that meditation is about a silent mind, you're not getting the point. Meditation is about, first of all, the discipline of sitting there, like finding 10 minutes of a day where you just sit down and you're in your own thoughts and you're not thinking. It's the mind is like the blue sky. There's a great analogy that Andy, the Headspace guy, uses for the mind. It's like a blue sky. The nature of mind is a clear blue sky on a sunny day. The thoughts and the feelings are like clouds. And sometimes the most relaxed state of mind that any of us will feel is that blue sky. And we've all felt it, guaranteed, every single one of us. Even if it's just a few times in your life, you might have felt it. And the thing to remember about the mind is that the clouds, and essentially it's like the sky. The clouds, when you go in an airplane, it's a great example. And you can be taking off from Gatwick and it's cloudy and rainy and shitty and horrible. And it's been pissing with rain all the way to the airport and you're fucking soaked and miserable and you're just about on the plane. You've just taken off. You want your fucking gin and tonic at 9 o'clock in the morning. And then the plane, you're sitting by the window and the plane goes through the clouds and there's blue sky. That is the mind, literally. All of the cloud, all of the emotions and all of the bullshit, like my whole bad day, is just like this layer of cloud over the mind.
Right. I think I get this, right? Without meditation as such. I think I get this because I listen to, generally listen to some pretty heavy science podcasts, right? Like with, I mean, people like Leonard Susskind or Brian Greene or even Brian Keating and stuff like that. I listen to all these people and I get into it, and then usually I fall asleep because I normally start listening to them at bedtime, right? And then I'll wake up at like 3 or 4, or sometimes 5 or 6, or sometimes 7, right? And just ponder and have epiphanies. This is where I came up with my theory of time. Which I will tell you about at some point, but I'm not going to go into it now. But I think that's kind of where I get my meditation then. Because and I might be completely wrong. Because I usually
I
take a completely different perspective, you know? Sorry, go on.
Well, absolutely. But the thing that I was going to say, no, I was just going to interrupt you to say that you're absolutely right. And one of the things that, the thing about that meditative state is that you don't have to be sitting with your legs crossed and trying to silence your mind. I find coding meditative sometimes. If I'm in the zone and I'm working on something and I've tackled all of the big problems and it all basically you're just rolling downhill and everything's going really well and you're just producing your next big thing and it's a huge amount of fun. That's meditative in a way.
Yeah.
Sitting every morning with my own thoughts is a discipline, but it's not. To add to your people who you listen to. Have you ever heard of someone called Alan Watts?
Oh yeah. I've listened to Alan Watts a lot.
He's brilliant.
Yeah,
and for anyone out there who's interested in this stuff, who hasn't heard that name, look him up because he did a whole load of lectures back in the 60s.
Yeah.
And there's something that always sticks in my mind. One thing that he said, which is that the zen of peeling potatoes is just to peel potatoes.
Yeah.
Which means that you can basically find that meditative peace and quiet just by being in the present moment. That's literally every single meditation that I've ever done with Headspace and in the Buddhist Center. It's all about being in that present moment. And I find it really useful.
I think Lewis Hamilton's into this because he was talking. I know he's a tosser, right? But he was talking to Sky in the last Grand Prix thing, because this is his last season with Mercedes, and he was saying, I just had to be present in the moment, and he said that quite a few times, and I think he's been listening to fucking some kind of Buddhist thing because he was continually talking about being present and making sure that he was present and stuff like that. And that's what I think. That's just what I think.
Well,
you know what? We're all tossers. We are all tossers.
Lewis fucking Hamilton.
He was right.
Pretty much.
He was right. I think
one of the but it's also about that's what I meant earlier by the zen of peeling potatoes. Is just to
exactly.
Peel the potatoes.
Yeah,
is that
wash the dish?
If you the times that I find my mind in a place that I don't want it to be, whether I'm anxious about something or like today, I've had a really busy, angry mind that's just been rubbed up the wrong way all day. And it's like this massive layer of cloud over Gatwick Airport.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's really difficult to remember that there is that blue sky above it. And I think that the people who get completely downtrodden by those clouds are the ones who end up as drug addicts and who lose hope completely. And
because they're always under the cloud.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You have to see
I like that analogy.
Sometimes.
I like the analogy. I like it.
It's the blue sky analogy for the mind is one of there's certain little pieces of information that I've cottoned onto in my life that stick around because it's such a perfect way of describing it.
It's strange as well because when I think about things that I do, right? Because normally when I'm sitting in front of my computer, my mind is racing with all sorts of different stuff, right? I do find editing quite cathartic because that's something that takes your focus and you are in that moment just doing editing. But the other thing I find that's quite cathartic is washing dishes. Now this might sound crazy to you.
No, it doesn't at all.
Because
no, it doesn't at all.
I do a lot of dishwashing because I when Andy's doing the bacon, I wash all the stuff as it's coming in. And I find that
You're a good husband.
I am, I know. But I find it quite cathartic, especially since I know how to wash a dish properly and she fucking can't. She leaves everything coated.
I knew that was coming.
You know, but you've got to rinse the detergent off.
Yeah.
You must rinse. But yeah.
But the thing is that it's about those grounding moments. And actually, this is a compliment to you that when I think about the amount of life stress that you've described to me, even on the show, you opened up a bit on the last show about some of the stuff that had happened to you.
Oh yeah.
And actually, for you to survive with your marriage intact after that kind of upheaval, let's call it. And if you want to find the details, go back and watch the other show. But that actually speaks to a lot of strength of character. And I know you're a grumpy old bastard, but I think that's worth mentioning because it's maybe a certain bit of grumpiness is we all need that to keep us alive.
Yeah.
Maybe part of the problem with society is we're all being too fucking nice to each other.
I think so. I think you're right.
It's fake.
Yeah.
A lot of it's fake as well.
Mm-hmm.
If we were a bit more free oh God, this actually ties back to something I was reading a few hours ago.
This ties back to just before we started the show. When I said to you, you know, if I called you a fucking kit, you know, you'd be in the inner circle. You would be one of the accepted guys. And I think that's the Scottish psyche. You've got to be insulted to be one of the good guys, you know?
Yeah, and that's what they're battering out of society at the moment.
Yeah, they are. They're trying to... It's like Logan's fucking run, isn't it? It really is. They're trying to make everything perfect. And it doesn't work.
It's like Logan's run with the internet. No, it doesn't at all.
Yeah,
and
you're right.
More to the point, if we're talking film analogies, there's the Matrix analogy, and also that mouse experiment that you did that really good video about.
Yeah.
That was really good, by the way. I did go back and watch that one.
Thank you.
And people should watch it because John does a really... Oh, God, what was it called? I can't remember the name of the experiment. But basically, it's like the Matrix... But a mouse experiment, literally, where
Mouse Utopia.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was
where they talk in the Matrix about how the machines created this perfect world for humans, but we just lost loads of crops of people because we're using them as batteries. Which let's not go there. We should do a whole show about the Matrix.
Yeah, we could. We could.
Some
we could
of
do
it
that.
is so profound, and some of it is so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anyway, going back to the mouse experiment. It's people need struggle.
I find that mouse experiment incredibly fucking compelling. When you look at it, what got me was the beautiful mice, right? So, like, 5, 6, 7, or whatever generations in, these guys would just suddenly stop having sex, stop fighting, stop really doing anything other than eat, sleep, and groom. And that's kind of where some people are today, and I'm thinking influencers, right? You know who you are, right?
I'm thinking what you're thinking, brother.
Yeah, eat, sleep, and groom. That's all you fucking do. And you look great, but you don't produce the next generation. You don't add to society, and ultimately, the mouse society's all failed. And the thing was, he didn't do the experiment once. He did it numerous times. He kept rerunning it, and every time the society would crumble and die. But that society had everything provided for it that it needed to thrive.
And you know what's even more scary than that is the fact that people like us who are looking at that experiment now,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
know you this is one area you probably will agree with me, that we
I agree
are
with you quite a
seeing
lot.
that.
Good, carry on.
Yeah, that's probably why we get on.
Yeah.
And the same is true likewise, by the way. But the whole point being that we're actually seeing that bullshit unfold right now. Because when you look at how coddled
Yeah.
people's lives are, and I guess I noticed it because until I was 11 years old, we lived in Africa, and then I moved to Holland.
Yeah.
And the difference between Africa and Europe is, I wouldn't say night and day, because that implies that one's good and one's bad, but it's completely different. And
No, I think you can say night and day, because it doesn't. I don't think that does imply one's good and one's bad. I think it implies a massive difference. But I wouldn't say that night and day is intrinsically good or bad, unless you're thinking in terms of good and evil. But I'm not even going to go there
in terms of good and evil. But there's this whole. It's like you've got black sheep of the family.
Okay, but night and day is fine. Night and day is fine, because night and day is diametrically opposite almost, and that's what.
And we're on different hemispheres.
And the same thing happened to me, because I lived in Hong Kong and then I moved back to the UK, and that was like night and day. It was a completely different lifestyle, you know. And things changed.
I think that's something, absolutely, and it's. I find people, because I know plenty of people. I can think of 3 of them off the top of my head, that the furthest they've been outside of Brighton is London for a few raves, and maybe Spain a couple of times.
I think you should have to go and live somewhere else. And I don't mean for 2 weeks. I mean for at least 2 years or longer. I mean, during COVID, we took off and we lived in France. We lived in France for over 2 years. You know, we travelled through.
Is that with your kids?
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's a valuable thing.
That's fantastic for kids.
Yeah. Oh, I mean,
it's.
Our daughter hated the idea, didn't want to go, and now she fucking misses France and really misses Sweden. Sweden's it's like America, except with Swedish people. It's weird.
You want to know a secret?
Go on.
You always miss. Let me tell you a secret. As a person who, the only roots that I have are this flat that you see me sitting in.
Yeah.
Literally, I've been here long. I've been in this flat longer than I've lived anywhere else.
Yeah.
And I don't really have any roots at all. I'm half English, half Dutch, lived in Africa. There's no time to put any roots down. But one thing that I will say to your daughter is that you always miss the place that you're not in.
Yeah. Yeah, you do.
When I'm in the UK, I always feel more Dutch.
Yeah.
And when I'm in Holland, I always feel more English. And when I'm in Zambia, it's weird, because until I was like 11, 12 years old, large groups of white people were really strange to me.
Yeah.
I remember like being on holiday in Holland with my mum's sister, and she had this flat that overlooked this Dutch shopping center. And one of my early childhood memories is of just sitting at that window looking at all the white people, thinking, this is really weird. There's so many white people there, because that just wasn't what I was used to.
Yeah.
And it's all perspective. It's the same with people like, they go to Argentina and they take a picture of this fabulous sunset, and it's like, oh, wow. But actually, quite often, if you go outside your door at the right time of year, and in the UK, that's usually spring and autumn, when the sun is doing its whole equinox thing and it's in the right part of the sky, you catch the sky on the right day, in the right place, at the right time. And you don't need to travel 5,000 miles to see beauty.
No, you don't. You don't. But you need to travel. You need to travel to experience different cultures. And I think it really you don't experience a culture on a holiday. That's the thing. I don't think you do. I think until you live there, you don't
you want to
know
how
what
I
it's
changed
like.
the education system?
Go on.
I don't just think that higher
Oh,
education. I think all
you're
education
away.
should be free. Oh,
I would send them abroad for a year.
Yeah, no, that's what I meant. But
Yeah.
I reckon that in addition to government-funded university, the education shouldn't be paid for. We shouldn't be starting kids off with masses of debt.
Yeah.
But I think in addition to that, the change that makes the education system is a government-funded gap year.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. Well, I think actually rather than being a gap year, it should be a student exchange. You should have to go and study in a foreign country. You know, because I think that makes a massive difference.
I've got that from personal experience.
Yeah.
Absolute personal experience. Because when I was at Sussex University back in the 90s, because although I'm half English and half Dutch, I came from Holland, so I was classed as a foreign student. And so we arrived a week before all of the home students.
Yeah.
And so you're sort of with all the Europeans and all the Americans and everyone else. And I've seen that change over a year, because there was 3 people that I knew at uni who I only knew for a year, and I saw one of them for lunch a few months ago, which was amazing. I'm not going to go there, but you'd see these people change over the course of a year. And the Americans were the funniest, because they'd literally spend the first 2 weeks getting absolutely shit-faced, because they're all under 21.
Yeah.
And suddenly
they can drink. Yeah.
Absolutely. Suddenly, not only were bartenders more than happy to serve them, but they discovered this English phenomenon called snake biting black.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And for those of you who don't know, a snake biting black is a half a pint of cider, half a pint of lager, and a black currant top.
Yeah, we didn't call it that. We called it diesel. Because that's what it looks like.
And these poor bastards, and I saw it literally. There was one of my housemates at uni, was an American exchange student, and she discovered snake biting black in week 3. And by the Christmas vacation, we would have this routine where we'd go out drinking. She'd have 4 or 5, 6 pints of snake bite.
Oh, Jesus.
Go back to the dorm, and we'd be doing that thing that university students do, passing a doob around.
Studying furiously.
Yeah. And without fail, every single night that I went out drinking with her, literally she was spraying. It was like doing an exorcist in her dorm room sink. And it was all purple.
Yeah.
But at the same time, by the end of the process, you see the change that it has on people. And I don't necessarily think your idea of having that year abroad as factored in, I don't necessarily think it should just be university students.
No, it should be high school students. Yeah.
But also the school system needs to do a better job of actually figuring out.
I think the school system needs to be a bit longer. And I know that sounds crazy. You know, thinking back as
actually figure out what people are good at.
Thinking back as a kid, I don't think you should be leaving school until you're at least 18. At least 18. Now I know normally that's a choice thing because you can leave school at 16, but I think you should be held there until you're at least 18.
Well, I think that I agree with you in principle, but I think that there need to be more options other than just an academic side of things.
Absolutely. Yeah, because there's no barrier.
Kids.
There's no barrier, right, to going down a non-academic stream. Yeah. No barrier to going down a non-academic stream.
Absolutely. It's like if I was going to run the government, I'd say that there should be a tax break for apprenticeships. So if you say
Yeah.
you're a plumber
Yeah.
and you take on an apprentice,
Yep.
that the government will pay, say, 50% of the apprentice's salary. But on top of that, as an incentive, the plumber themselves gets a lower rate of tax.
Yeah. Absolutely. Or something around
Because,
that. Yeah. Why not?
well, the number of tradesmen, like the good tradesmen, the Tyler that did my kitchen, for example, absolutely superb. But he said it's a dying art because
Yeah,
the
of
kids
course it
aren't
is.
interested. They just
Because
sit on their
nobody is.
phones.
Yeah. Nobody is interested. This is the problem. You need people are losing a kind of work ethic. And I mean
It's mobile phones.
yeah, I think it is.
And it's one of the things that this Tyler was saying to me. He said he's had a few apprentices, but he just got rid of them because they would do the absolute minimum. And every time he turned around, they'd be sitting there on their phone. And he would just like, get the fuck out of here because you're not helping me. And so it's an interesting question about how much damage it is. I realize it's another 2-hour conversation question, but maybe it's a topic for a future conversation, but something to think about is, do we think collectively that mobile phones are more beneficial or more harmful? Because they're kind of like cigarettes.
Yeah, I think mobile phones are harmful. I'm just going to come out there and say it straight away. I think a mobile phone is a complete tie to you in so many ways that it becomes a burden because you're too contactable by your work, your partner, your family, your friends. You know, when I was growing up and we were going out to the pub, you made an agreement to be somewhere at a certain time. And unless you were fucking dying, you stuck to that agreement because if you didn't, your pals wouldn't be there the next time. You know what I mean? And now with mobile phones, it's just everything's too easy. Everything's too easy.
But I sometimes think that and the thing is that I'm torn because obviously I work in tech and there's a certain aspect of technology that I love, but I've also found I don't know whether it's me getting older or technology becoming too pervasive, but I find myself dialing back. It's like my car. I'm quite happy with this old little Corsa, and she still runs. She still gets me from A to B, and there's like almost no computing.
Well, all right.
I don't want a fucking. It's like someone described modern cars.
Yeah,
it's like, who was it? They said an EV is basically an iPhone with wheels.
You know what? And this might shock you, right? Okay. But I've had an EV, right? I've had a full EV. I had a Hyundai Ioniq, right? Which, while it wouldn't quite self-drive, right, it would drive itself in traffic, and it would go around corners and things like that without you touching the wheel. You had to touch the wheel occasionally, or it would stop driving, right? But it would basically drive itself, and I fucking loved it. Right? I thought it was brilliant. See, in traffic, the best thing ever, right? See, an electric car's a fucking good tool, right? Because they're fast, they're quiet, they're relatively efficient, right? And they're really comfortable, and they do a lot for you. And I liked it, right? And if you wanted to go really fast, these things can go really fucking fast if you know how to drive, right? But I would have one of them in a heartbeat. No problem at all, right? And I would let it do most of the stuff. See, if I had a full self-driving Tesla, I would quite happily sit there and let it drive, right? Which might shock you, right? But I think that mobile phones are the fucking work of the devil. because people, the problem is
social media.
It's not necessarily social media. It's people, right? People do not limit themselves when it comes to mobile phones. I use a mobile phone for two things, right? I make texts and calls. Okay? A smartphone is fucking wasted on me. The only time I use its smartphone function is when I've got 10 minutes and I'm sitting in the bog. Right? Any other time, I use the computer. I don't use Twitter. I very rarely use Twitter on the mobile because it has adverts, and when I use it on the desktop, it's
Really
advert free.
irritating.
It's advert free on the desktop, so I use it on the desktop. I don't watch YouTube on it because on the desktop, YouTube's advert free. If I use it on the mobile, it's got adverts. You know, I don't find and mobile is not a good medium for consuming media, right? It's fucking awful. And yeah, I know I'm old and I'm grumpy and I'm set in my ways. And it's someone like Ben edits his videos on his mobile. Right? I can't even fucking contemplate editing a video on a mobile. And that's usually why his audio is always fucking awful. Because that's the first thing I pull him up on. Your audio sucks. And he goes, well, I'm listening to it through a fucking phone speaker. And I goes, well, stop using your fucking phone to... I mean, he edits everything on his mobile. And I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. It would drive me nuts. I mean, it's so restrictive. I'm sitting... You'll know what it's like. I'm sitting here with 3 screens when I'm doing my video editing. I'm not fucking restricting myself to a fucking mobile, which is like this size.
I have 2, but only because of a lack of space.
Yeah. So, you know.
You know what? It's nearly 11:20.
Yeah. It's time to go to bed.
I think we need to finish. I need to go to bed.
Yeah, let's finish. Okay. Thank you.
Oh dear, sorry.
Thank you for hanging on with us, people.
Ending, but I just
don't worry about it. But he's run out of his batteries have run out.
Watch?
Yeah, we've still got 11 people
well, no,
on.
I've got a hygienist appointment at 9:00.
Oh,
9:30 in the morning.
Bummer. You know what? And this might shock you as well, but I gave up a dentist for 4 years because I couldn't get one when we were away. And when I came back,
you don't smoke.
I don't smoke, right? But
no, that's why I need to go and see my hygienist.
You know what I did that stopped my teeth getting plaque? I stopped.
My teeth are the problem.
All right,
my teeth are fine. It's my gums that are the issue.
I stopped brushing my teeth with toothpaste, and I stopped getting problems with my teeth. So I just brush it with a dry brush now, right? And it's weird, right? Because I went to the dentist after 4 years. I had a dentist appointment because a filling fell out. And the dentist goes, I'll just replace the filling, but there's no decay. You have no decay. And that's after 4 years of not brushing with toothpaste. Something to think about. Right. Thank you very much, Ed.
On that note,
I've had a great night. I hope
you. It's a pleasure.
I hope
Sorry,
you people.
Yeah,
I hope you people out there have enjoyed yourself. If you haven't, hey, shit happens. but you know, if you do like it,
if you haven't and you're still listening, yeah. What the fuck?
Why are you still here? But if you are still here, like, share, subscribe. You know what? It's been great.
If you're still here, we love you.
Bye bye. Oh God.